Good evening, everybody. This is Cinnamon Noir.
And this is the Roman Chump.
Welcome back to Princess Remedy in a Heap of Trouble. And we are going out to find more heaps of trouble in this next little area, accompanied by our eel friend, Penelope. I love how anything you say about this game makes no sense at all out of context. You just sound crazy.
Yeah.
Let's help this Skull Girl. Not to be confused with the video game.
She got that name.
Say what? Penelope?
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a long and complicated story behind that. You could probably make a whole game out of it. But they didn't. So I don't know. That's the long and short of it.
I was about to say, like, did they make a whole game out of it?
No. They wouldn't do that.
The way you said that was a little...
So do you think this heart character is named Mojo or Mojo? That's interesting to me because Mojo, I mean, that's obvious, but Mojo is a Spanish sauce, which I'm quite fond of. I like this little area. That's just like a factory. Sorry, not factory. I'm being dumb. That's like a mine where they mine stars. I thought it was a clever little thing. In some ways, this game's a little childish, but I like the imagination it has. It's got kind of a Disney vibe to it. Except that there's like strands of
something you could say about Earthbound, right?
Yeah, you kind of can. By the way, it may not look like it, but I think this guy's actually a vampire. You mentioned us giving him blood.
But Undertale's pretty clearly not actually oriented toward kids.
No, absolutely not. Well, that's the funny thing about it, though. I know it's hard to imagine because the internet went crazy over it, and the internet is mostly like 20-somethings. But do you think kids would actually play and enjoy Undertale?
I think older kids could.
Yeah, maybe. The problem is it's so referential, and I mean that as a problem not just for kids, but also kind of for me. I didn't like the referential nature of it. It reminded me of Homestuck, which Toby Fox also worked on. I mean, he didn't write it, but you know what I mean. I feel like it rubbed off on him. And the other thing they have in common is their fan bases are creepy.
A little, yeah.
Homestuck fans creep me out. And I know I've also mentioned this before, but Alphys from Undertale looks so much like the main male character of Homestuck. It's eerie. John, whatever his name is, the one who does the... Oh no, he doesn't do the youth role. I'm confusing myself. I need to stop referencing a webcomic that most people won't even have seen. Anyway, here's a kind of goofy snake. You may have noticed from the outside that he's going all the way through the floor and like down hundreds of feet.
Yeah.
And he's dead inside.
You know what I'm thinking of right now? So that's
what?
Just I'm a massive Dark Souls fan.
Uh-huh.
Kingseeker Framp.
Yeah, you're right. He does look kind of like Framp, doesn't he? I'd like to say that he's more goofy than Frampt, but Frampt actually is pretty goofy considering the universe he's in.
Frampt is extremely goofy, and that's kind of what I love about him.
And one thing I love about this is that the sides of the encounter arena in this are literally this snake's body. And you can just destroy him. You can actually also destroy him by dating him, which I will show right here, because you know how you can only be followed by something that's 1 pixel tall? Well, his head just literally leaves the rest of his body behind.
That is amazing.
Isn't it? I feel like they should make this guy their mascot. You know, ditch the apathetic frog. He's so depressing. But no, I can't date the snakehead forever, because I would like to use the big flask ability that Beppo here has. And I would remind you, Beppo is in fact a vampire, although he doesn't look like it.
Snakeheads.
Roly-poly snakeheads. Oh no!
Now I'm thinking of Metal Gear.
We need to save Kid Cranium.
The phrase snakeheads makes me think of Metal Gear, though.
Yeah. Snakehead Eater. Why is that game called Snake Eater? When snake eating is like one of the most incidental things you can do in that game.
I don't know.
It's weird. It's like it's the name of the song, it's the name of the game, but it doesn't really have much to do with Jack/Big Boss. I mean, is a guy who took down a massive tank and like saved the Soviet Union really most famous for eating snakes?
I don't know. Maybe it's something about the survivalist nature of the game.
Oh, I'm sure that's what it is, and it does kind of make sense, but... So I wanted to use the Big Flask power here, but I really shouldn't have, because Big Flask actually is close to the worst thing in the game. It throws flasks all over the screen. But at the cost of getting rid of literally all of your flasks. You can only use it once on a screen, which sucks. See what I mean? I shouldn't have called it Big Flask. Big Flask is actually a different power. I forget what this is called. It's called like Chaos or something like that. But it really is close to the worst power in the game. And I come pretty close to dying here, because you can get hit more often than you'd expect. But you'll also notice here what I said earlier, that when you hit enemies, you go up in health. This is one of the weirder NPCs in the game. This was a paranoid fish. His problem was that he was afraid of everyone, and apparently when we heal him, he gets a gun. Which is definitely the wrong message to send to kids.
Yeah.
That's not going to heal anybody. Remedy is, like, engaging in massive malpractice here. So let's get rid of Kid Cranium because his power sucks, and let's get Beppo back. Another sentence that sounds amazing outside of context. Here's the ritual grounds. This is one of the weirdest and creepiest parts of this game. There's nothing here except this chest. And all of these tiki heads with flaming, flames on top of them. Flaming flames. I'm a real poet when it comes to describing games, aren't I? Anyway. Let's go find another part of this spooky outgrowth. Oh, look, can you guess what this is?
Conjure with words.
I conjure with words. It's a circus. And we can save the strongman who suffers from a bad reputation. And knowing how we heal people in this game, what we probably do is we make him not care about his bad reputation. 10 internet points if you get that reference. If you've seen Shrek, you probably know it, but, Apparently we fixed his reputation, which is weird.
Okay.
These pills really do a lot for you. Maybe they're antipsychotics.
Yes, so.
Actually, knowing what you see in this game, antipsychotics is probably not what these pills are. They're probably the opposite of antipsychotics. Hallucinogens.
It would be funny if the ultimate pills in the game were like Percocet or something, or Oxycontin.
Here, I will heal all of you by making you not give a shit about your pain. I mean, I feel like stuff like Oxycontin, it barely even is a painkiller. More what it does is just drugs you out so much you don't notice the pain.
Well, it's a very strong opiate.
I know. I was talking to this with my sister the other day, actually, because she's a nurse. And I was talking about the fact that people used to use laudanum to do a lot of the same things that they use Percocet and Oxycontin today. And laudanum was literally just morphine in a suspension of alcohol.
Yeah, that is what I've heard.
And people didn't know how bad it was. They would feed it to babies, for Christ's sake, just to get them to shut up. Which just goes to show you how young people became mothers in those days. That they'd feed their kids drugs, because they were that irresponsible. I actually really like this boss. It's a little bit difficult. I would say this is actually the first big difficulty spike in this game. Because, first of all, you can't hit him all the time. These little buffers get in the way. And dealing with them is trickier than you might think. You also got to be very careful rationing your special attacks, because this guy has 2 stages. Once you get rid of the stuff at his side, he will start sending off these little square-shaped bullets. You might have noticed them. Actually, sorry, they're rhombus-shaped. And those things, instead of just following you blindly, will actually make a turn to go in the direction where you are.
Interesting.
So those things are a lot harder to dodge. Here you see 2 of them crossing right in front of each other. I actually dealt with that guy a lot more handily than I did when I first fought him. I guess I just learned how he worked. But he's a very tricky boss. Here we are in the Avian Haven. This is actually one of my favorite parts of this whole game. It's just full of different types of birds and bird-shaped architecture. I've always been a big fan of birds. Especially weird, creepy birds, like this one that's actually a moose. It doesn't even say, like, moose bird. It just says moose, despite the fact that he's clearly half duck.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a joke like duck, duck, moose. I don't know. I just thought of that. Maybe I work for Ludosity. It's like a dissociative thing where I don't know what I'm doing. Who knows?
That's creepy.
But subconsciously, I seem to have like this weird affinity with their strange sense of humor. You might also have noticed with that last power upgrade we got, we're no longer shooting out pills. Now we're shooting out syringes. Which, kids, do not do that at home. It is the opposite of healing people. If you see a syringe on the beach, do not pick it up. Let adults deal with it. Sonic says.
Also, don't
remember
step on it, you know?
Yeah. Well, I said don't touch it. I think it was that saying.
Yeah.
Do you know how to pronounce this thing? It looks like Qroue. At first I thought it said grouse, but then no, I'm wrong. It's not spelled that way, so who knows? Anyway, I like the grouse. He has a neat power and he looks cool. And here's the first time I failed at healing in this particular game. It just goes to show, later on in this game, these bullets can really overwhelm you. And now we're starting to see normal enemies have the same types of bullets that the boss had in the last section. And that's what shows you that there's really been a ramping up at this point of difficulty. These little, I don't know what to call them, fire pit things are very frustrating. They don't move, but every time you hit them, they send off a few shots. So you've got to be very careful to not hit them when you don't know what you're doing. One thing about this game, which I think is kind of interesting, is that you can never stop shooting. It's not possible to. Remedy just shoots automatically. And that means you have to be careful of what you're doing. And,
yeah, that seems a bit weird.
So yeah, there's actually a secret area in that house that only leads to a bookshelf so that you can see a raunchy picture of Washola. Not really a reward. I would never want to see a raunchy picture of Washola.
Oh well.
Anyway, here I'm showing off the special ability of the bird thing that I'm having, the one I call the grouse. It's called Blast, and when you use it, it basically emits a little thing of energy all around Remedy. That can be useful as sort of a half-offensive, half-defensive tactic when you need to get rid of enemies around you quickly because they're doing too much damage. That back there was just a little dance I was doing to celebrate this grouse friend that I have. I value him very highly. This is just like a little egg barn. It's just a barn full of eggs. But the weirdest thing is that you can walk through some of them.
That is odd.
I do not understand how that works. Maybe they're the ones that are over soft. Actually, that's not even a thing. It's over easy. I don't know what I'm talking about. Let's go to this next place.
Let's do.
So this is Foul Hollow. And here's a sign that says it's impossible to have clean thoughts about Washola. I disagree. I just did. Anyway, there's only one person in here, but it's a very difficult fight, so it makes up for the lack of other enemies in this area.
Fair enough.
One thing that this part of the game starts to show you is that it's very important to basically be handling the positioning of enemies. Since a lot of enemies later on in the game start out being unable to move, it's important not to accidentally blow up the barriers that stand between you and them when you're attacking. Which kind of makes this a little like Space Invaders, actually. You have shields that protect you, even though you can't shoot through them.
Yeah.
But you need to be careful, you know, not to get to them too early.
And not shoot. Can you shoot through your... Wait, you just said you can't shoot through your own shield.
No, you can in the original Space Invaders.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, you shoot... These barriers are all things you can destroy. That's one of the things about this game. Anyway. So here we've saved the Strangle Swan. Who apparently uses its neck to strangle things, so maybe we shouldn't have saved it. We might have doomed the entire rest of the world at this point. Who cares? So now you're starting to see how the fact that these things shoot whenever you shoot them can really get out of control if you're not careful. Especially if you're hitting multiples of them at the same time, which the spread of shots in this game almost guarantees if they're packed close together. But this is one area where the burst thing comes very much in handy, because if you burst right next to them, they can't hit you fast enough. Anyway, that's why I'm keeping this grouse around. It's very useful. He actually looks a little bit like a pheasant or something. It's a little hard to say with graphics this simple. Also, he's just an outline. But oh well. You notice he has like a little waddle on him, like a turkey?
Yeah.
I don't know what he is, and the game doesn't seem to know what he is either. Considering how much they like birds, they certainly don't seem to know very much about them. I, on the other hand, know lots about birds because I collect golden guides. And just to show you how depressing I am, that is actually true. I do collect golden guides.
Oh well.
Let us save the Duck Lord. I don't know if you remember this guy. He was actually in the original game. He was just like a random NPC. Now he actually has a castle. I say now, but this actually takes place before the first game, which means that this guy once had a castle and then lost it. He's kind of like the bee from Conker's Bad Fur Day. Except I like him a lot better. I'm a big fan of the Duck Lord. Although, Again, this game doesn't buck the trend of the last game, which is that you save people and then they go right back to their horrible ways of lifestyles. This guy's gonna go right back to eating breadcrumbs, which is probably why Remedy has to save him in the original game, too.
That is a little depressing.
It is. It's like, you know, no one will stay safe.
Why can't the world just stay safe?
Stay safe. Anyway, this boss is kind of fun. He sends out a lot of bullets, and he also leaves a trail behind him of obstacles that you can't get through. So there's sort of like a Snake aspect to this. To bring up snakes again. I mean the old video game Snake. But the other thing about him is that when you start destroying him, he breaks off into these 4 little guys, and they send off periodic waves of bullets. They're very hard to get around. This is actually kind of similar to the fight against Frowlin in the original game, where you have those 4 hearts chasing you around. It's not quite as difficult because this game gives you more tools for fighting off enemies, but it's sort of a similar setup. Once you get rid of 1 or 2 of them, though, this fight gets a lot easier.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's important just not to get whittled down in this fight. These guys have a lot of health. It's easy to get distracted.
This does seem like kind of a very sort of hit-and-run fight.
Oh, just wait. I loved the boss battle of the original game because it was kind of bullet helly. This game goes way more in that direction, and I'm so glad they did that. It was a great decision. We'll see. We'll see. It's a little distracting that even the most complicated sprites in this game have a black border so that they're all square, but oh well.
Oh well.
Can't have everything. That is one case where they did decide to go for a deliberate discipline where they didn't actually need it. That sprite's a little difficult to figure out. I'm pretty sure this is like a tank girl. Not like the movie Tank Girl.
Not like... I was gonna guess the comic.
It is based on a comic, isn't it? No, it's just a girl with the body of a tank, which is not what Tank Girl is.
Although there's an anime-inspired game where it's like a tank dating simulator.
Oh, look, bicycle accidents have decreased since the Don't Think of Wash Olaf While Biking campaign started. Very good. If you're a girl under the age of 12 and you're high on marijuana, don't ride your bike. There's another reference I wouldn't know except for AMV Hell.
Yep.
I'm very sad about AMV Hell going south, aren't you?
Yeah.
I was really sad the day that happened. Anyway, here we've saved Casual Man. We're not gonna save him because... Sorry, we're not gonna date him because his ability is backstep and it's terrible. Actually, this little girl who has a tank body does kind of remind me of Tarkus, the Emerson, Lake and Palmer album, which has like an armadillo with a tank body. One of the weirdest album covers in history. Have you ever seen that album cover?
No.
I had to show it to you. It is so like goofy 70s sci-fi, and the best part is it wasn't even originally made for the album. They saw this guy's art at an exhibition, and they were like, this is amazing. We need to make an album on this theme of an armadillo tank.
Okay.
And this is why people think that 70s prog rock was weird.
Because it was weird?
So that's a little someone's diary. They say they're gonna think that everyone in the audience is naked wash Olafs. You know, to make them more confident. Wouldn't make me more confident.
No.
I never understood that bit of advice. Imagining the audience is naked. Has that ever worked for you? I don't know how much public speaking you've done.
That would just make things feel more awkward to me.
Yeah, me too. But it must have worked for somebody once. Unless people are really dedicated to telling lies about self-help stuff. Which is possible. Well, that's helpful, John. You're just normal. You need to admit you have a problem, otherwise I can't heal you. Well, actually, that's a lie. I can heal you just by shooting things, but you have to admit it. So, can you make out what these weird things I'm fighting are? These things that look like Egyptian hieroglyphs with eyes? I was not able to figure out what they were. They're just kind of random.
Not a clue.
This girl says she goes to healing school, because she says she's way smarter than everyone else there. All I can say is she must have a frickin' long commute. Because we started off at healing school, and we've come a long way to get here.
What do you know about, incidentally, what do you know about Bloodborne?
A fair amount. I watched an almost complete playthrough of it. I've read a lot of the lore, and I watch Fungo's videos, which are really cool.
Healing school makes me think of the Healing Church.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, no horrible transformations in this game, thank God. My favorite part of Bloodborne was actually Master Willem and his whole thing with the school. Because I thought that was pretty clever. Especially the sort of forbidden knowledge Cthulhu aspect of it. Although, I gotta say, Vacuous Rom always struck me as kind of a dumb concept. Surely they could have done something better than just a giant spider with eyes on it.
Malodorous pervert!
You forgot Toffee-Nosed. Oh my gosh, it's Apathetic Jenny. She's like the apathetic frog given human form. We gotta date her. I wonder if anyone complained when this game came out that it, like, objectifies people by making dating them be just like a collect-a-thon. Who knows?
Well, I mean,
this game only came out a few months
objects,
ago.
so why shouldn't it objectify people?
That's true. That's a good point. Personifying objects is the opposite of objectifying people. Now I'm gonna start complaining that games personify objects. This game is objectivist. Just like BioShock. Oh, anyway, we're gonna stop here for the moment. In the last segment, we are gonna go through the last parts of this game, and believe me, it's a real... I was gonna say train wreck. It's not a train wreck, it's fun, but it's a roller coaster ride, so stay tuned for that.
A roller coaster ride could be followed by a train wreck.
Oh, Jesus. If you've ever played Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, enough of that. Good night, everybody.
Boom! I love that they blow up when they crash, too. I don't know either. Anyway, goodbye, everybody.